Hi, this is Joe Hada back again with another OVI tip from OACDL. Today we're talking about the time required to properly administer the HGN. This is a question I get a lot from judges, prosecutors, other lawyers. How long does the HGN take? Well, in my hearings, as long as I can possibly get them to testify to. I'm going to make that record as best I can, and the more it differs from that videotape, the better. But today, for this video, we're doing it according to NHTSA. We're doing it by going through the NHTSA manual and the standards they set, so we have a more definitive answer. And a definitive answer based on NHTSA, not based on case law, because the case law in Ohio is not very good. Going back to Bresson, we got off on a bad foot with the HGN, but there's other bad case law since then about how long this test takes. There's case law that says it takes 68 seconds. I think there's one that says it's down in the 50s, but it's just plain wrong. So we're going to look at what NHTSA says it should take to complete the HGN. Now, the best paper written on this was done by Troy McKinney. He said it takes 82 seconds. But it was a while ago. There's been some changes. So we'll go through that here for you today. We're going to start with equal pupil size and resting nystagmus. With this, it takes some time. The NHTSA manual doesn't give us that time, but it does take some time to look at both pupils, make sure they're the same size, make sure they're not exhibiting nystagmus while the pen is still held still in front of their eyes. So let's call it 2 seconds. We're going to move on to equal tracking. So when this pen starts to move, it used to be that you could just whip that pen back and forth, a couple seconds and you're fine, you've done equal tracking. Well, eventually they decided that no, you can't do that. You have to move the stimulus at a set rate. You're going to have to do it at the same rate as lack of smooth pursuit. So we're talking 2 seconds out, 2 seconds back. If you go 2 seconds out, 2 seconds back on each eye, you get to 8 seconds. You only have to do it once. The only exception to this was from 2013 when the manual said you had to do it twice. They revoked that in 2015 without any study one way or the other for putting it in or taking it out. But it's back down to 1 time, and that's why we're at 8 seconds. But it was a fun 2 years. So lack of smooth pursuit. Like I already said, it's 2 seconds out and 2 seconds back. It was 8 seconds for equal tracking, but in this one we have to do it twice, so we're up to 16 seconds. Now, if the officer does move it too fast during this test, moving the stimulus too fast will cause saccades. Saccades is where the eyes are jumping to catch up to the stimulus, and it looks like nystagmus. So if you're moving too fast, it can give you a false positive on this clue. Moving along to maximum deviation. Distinct and sustained nystagmus at maximum deviation. This one is clearly defined as well. It's 2 seconds out, hold for a minimum of 4, 2 seconds back. That's 8 times 4 is 32. So 32 seconds to complete maximum deviation. The manual says a minimum of 4 seconds though. And when I watch these videos, very frequently, 80–90% of the time, that officer's not holding it out there for the full 4 seconds. If you hold out that stimulus, you go 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not 4 seconds. When I teach this as an instructor of field sobriety test, teach hold it for much longer. Go ahead and count to 8. Fatigue nystagmus is not going to set in till 30 seconds. So go ahead, hit your numbers. Make sure you hold it out there long enough. If you count to 8 and it turns out to be 6 seconds, great. You're past the 4 and you did it correctly. So, but the bare minimum here is 32 seconds for the maximum deviation clue. All right, now this next one gets a little bit more squirrely. Checking for onset of nystagmus prior to 45 degrees. This is where the officers will try and get away with a little bit more, because how far you have to move it to observe nystagmus can depend on how long this portion takes. But to pick a good number here, a nice round number, we're going to say that they had to move it out to 40 degrees, okay? 40 degrees would be 4 seconds out, hold for 2 seconds, and 4 seconds back. 4 plus 2 plus 4 is 10 times 4 is 40 seconds. So 40 seconds for this portion of the test at that BAC. And that's why that asterisk is on there, because it is dependent on BAC. I just said that the BAC we're computing this for is for 40 degrees. Well, that computes to a 0.10 BAC, okay? And where we get that is actually from the DRE manual. In the DRE manual, they give us this formula. In fact, I got it on my A-Ride card that they gave us when we took A-Ride. But it's BAC equals 50 minus angle of onset. So if you notice onset and nystagmus at 40 degrees, then 50 minus 40 is 10. You got a 0.10 BAC. It's actually a pretty accurate way of measuring BAC if you do it correctly. I just don't see many officers do it correctly. So if we are at a 0.10, it should be taking 40 seconds to complete that portion of the HGN. Now, again, the reason for the asterisks is that if that person is at a 0.20, it's going to take less time. How much less? Well, moving it out to 30 degrees is going to take 3 seconds out, 2 seconds, and 3 seconds back. That's 8 times 4 is 32 seconds. So if you double the BAC, it's only knocking off 8 seconds. What bothers me is when the officer says, oh, I was able to do that portion so quick because as soon as I started to move the stimulus, I saw a nystagmus. I only had to go 5 degrees. I only had to go 10 degrees. Really? Was he really a 0.4? Was he really a 0.45? Was he standing there following your stimulus while he was dead? No, he wasn't. He wasn't really that high of a BAC. Quite frankly, your breath test doesn't even say he was that high. But it eliminates their ability. Using that formula eliminates their ability to shave time off what they should have taken to do this test by saying that they exhibited nystagmus very quickly. So, and quite frankly, somebody at a 0.2, 0.25, they're going to be looking pretty drunk on this film, on this videotape, regardless of how long or how properly the officer's doing the HGN. So really, if you're getting an HGN in a contested case, it's going to be closer to this 40-second mark as far as how long the HGN should be taking for onset of nystagmus prior to 45 degrees. So let's go ahead and total this on up. We got 2 plus 8 plus 16 plus 32 plus 40. That's going to add up to 98. I know I said Troy McKinney was at 82. He wrote a great paper, but things have developed. If you write it, if you compute this for the proper BAC, we are at 98 seconds. That's over 1.5 minutes to properly do the HGN. Kind of cast out on that case law that says it's 68 seconds or less. It's just not right. According to NHTSA, it's going to take this long to properly do the HGN. But, I mean, how many times where you get SFST video where they are only doing HGN? Typically, they're throwing in VGN as well. So, let's throw that in here. So, vertical gaze nystagmus. You have to move the pen up to the maximum of their vertical gaze, and you're going to have to hold it there for, again, a minimum of 4 seconds. Still, I go ahead and count the 8 to 8, but you're holding it for a minimum of 4. Now, it doesn't say what pace to move it up to the top of their vision. I've had some officers say 1 second. Some people say same as lack of smooth pursuits. You're talking 2 seconds up, hold 2 seconds back. 1 second, 2 seconds, let's call it 12 to 16 seconds. So when you add this 12 to 16 seconds for VGN to the time it takes to do HGN, we've got the 98 plus our 12 to 16. Now we're up to a total of 110 to 114 seconds. Certainly a lot longer than that 68, but we are adding VGN here. Quite frankly, we're getting close to 2 minutes. So when you watch your videotape and it's coming up short, you can start to look for the reasons why. But as a litmus test, if you're under 98 seconds and if there's a VGN, if you're under 110 seconds, something's wrong. There's your OVI tip for the day on HGN and how long it takes to perform it properly according to NHTSA.